You're listening to the Engaged Club podcast, where we believe that engagement of members, staff, and managers is the key to a thriving club.
Our aim is to help you become a better club manager by giving you practical, actionable club management and marketing advice.
I'm Roger Kincaid. I'm the marketing director at Off Course Golf. We make member and customer engagement tools for club managers that make growth and prosperity their business. You can find out more about what we do at offcourse.golf.
And I'm Jim Hope. I've been managing clubs and working in the hospitality business for nearly 40 years. I now proudly serve the members of the Derrick Golf and Winter Club in Edmonton, Alberta as their GM and COO.
Hey, Jim, this is a really cool episode because once again, we have a guest, and this time our guest is Frank Benzakour, CCMCCE. He's got the same letters behind his name that you do. Frank is the author of a book called The 12 Golden Keys to Hospitality Excellence. You got to interview him for quite a while. What was it like talking to him?
It was fantastic, Roger. You know, anytime you can spend some time talking with somebody who has a passion and a love for what they do, which Frank does for the club management industry, is always a blast.
Yeah, so we're going to get into these 12 keys to hospitality. And we're actually breaking this interview up into a couple of episodes, Jim. So we're just going to bite off a small piece right here. Tell us what we're going to be talking about.
We're talking about the first two keys, which really, I think in reality, they could almost be one key, but Frank broke them out into two. And the two keys are, the first one is you can't grow as a leader if you don't develop others. And the other is overinvest in your people. And what he was talking about with both of these keys was that, you know, at most clubs, staff are probably the largest single expense line in an income statement. And we have to look at staff as an asset, not a liability or an expense at our club. So he talks a lot about the fact that, you know, you need to look at investing with your team and then in turn that they'll give back to you. And as a leader, you can't do it all on your own. You need to do it by investing with your team. And again, they'll in turn give back to you and give back to the members at the club.
You know what really blows me away about the second key is to the extent and the degree to which he over invests in the people around him. I was actually, really interested and inspired by what he said, but I was also kind of moved by it. There's an emotional connection coming up in that second key.
And when you listen to this episode, you'll be moved as well about what Frank does for his team.
Now, be sure to stay tuned at the end when we're going to give you something that you can put into action for yourself at your club right away.
The Engaged Club podcast is supported by the Canadian Society of Club Managers. And now on to our discussion with Frank. So, Frank, in your experience, Frank, what would you say the big difference is between service and hospitality?
Wow, that's a terrific question, Jim. I think the biggest difference, in my opinion, is the emotional connection we make with our members. I think service is good service. You give back a great service for a product. But hospitality is, I have to say, is an emotional connection. I've been at seminars where the speaker says members are your bosses and customers, and you're not really supposed to fraternize with them. Kind of disagree with that philosophy because I have made some terrific friends and through who were my members at different clubs. And those unbelievable connections that I had made with those people are basically lasting a lifetime. Those are relationships that will go on forever. And I think that is true hospitality. In my opinion, that is a real definition of hospitality.
You know, Frank, I couldn't agree with you more. I think in order for us to succeed and for clubs to succeed, there needs to be that internal connection that you have both with us, with the clubs, and then of course with the members, because they are the fabric of a club. And to do that, you got to get a personal connection in there, and you can't do that from a distance, can you? You got to get sort of connected with the people and understand who they are, and find out about their kids and their grandkids and their dogs and their cats, and care about them. And if they care about if you care about them, they'll care about you, and they'll care about the team that you're working with as well. And then you just become this interconnected family that really want all of you to succeed, and truly does become your home away from home.
Agreed. I really feel the same way.
Let's dive into the book. Let's talk with the very first key, which is you can't grow as a leader if you don't develop others. Tell us about that.
Well, as you can imagine, it's always easy for people to think that if they want to grow, they really need to work on themselves. And I think that if you really want to grow, you need to think about others first. And if you develop others, it will allow you to grow. So I know it sounds a little bit as more of a difficult concept, but in fact, nothing can be truer than that. If you genuinely work on developing others, it comes back and it really allows you to grow as well. And I think that is one of the most fundamental keys in the book. And I think it's one of also the most fundamental way of leadership.
Do you find, and as history has sort of shown for you too, that as you develop and invest more time with your people, they also become more loyal to you as well? As much as you're developing, they'll probably move on, but they're more apt to stay with you a little longer. And we find, at least in our market, it's fairly transient in some of the positions. But the more time we invest in people, the more loyal they are to us. Would you say that's comes with it as well?
100%. I have several living examples, as a matter of fact. I mean, a personal friend of mine whom I met when he was 19 years of age, and I mentioned him in the book. I mentored him, worked with him, and he became my assistant for about 11 years, and now he is ready to become a general manager himself. So that is a terrific success story. And I have 3 or 4 other guys that I've been working with and that I think that are going to be future leaders in the industry.
Robert Sirachi, who's at Medina Golf Club, who listens to this podcast, posted something on LinkedIn where he had, I think he had, I'm not sure if it was assistant manager or it was a director of food and beverage operations at the club. And they had been with him at a previous club. As he said, he took it as a great compliment that when a staff member who worked with you in the past is prepared to work with you again, it probably speaks to the investment that you made in them and the fact that they are so happy with what you did that they want to come back and work with you some more. So good on you for that. That's so important.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Robert is a good friend. I think he mentioned somebody who was with him, if memory serves me right, at the Hong Kong club, who now came back and is working with him at Medina, which is a testament to Robert. He's a terrific leader.
Frank, the second key you had was overinvest in your people. And one of the things you said in that was that the best clubs consider their personnel an investment instead of an expense. And that's really interesting because, most clubs, you're probably 55% of your expenses is labor. It's, it's no question the largest expense line that you'll have in all your different departments. So can you talk a little bit about, how you maybe even change the thinking at a club where you want them to change from thinking of their staff as an expense instead making them an investment?
Well, I've always speaking of investment and investors, I've always spoken to my bosses, whether they were the investors in the property or the club members, that the staff is really the customer number one. I really look at it as customer number one and the members as customer number two. I know some people might say this might not sound right, but when you think about it, I honestly believe if you take care of your staff, they will take care of your customers. And over investing in people is such a fundamental principle for me that I had to write a whole chapter about it. And in fact, there was a story there in the book where I said that I made it my mission to send at least one person back to college at every job I've ever had. So that was very important for me because when I try to spot a future leader, a winner, and I see that they did not have the opportunity to go and finish college, I do whatever I can to try to send them back, whether I change their schedule or help them financially or speak to somebody on their behalf to allow them to go back and finish their schooling so they can grow as people. I think that is something that is very important for me, and I really cannot say enough things about that. So over-investing people is not just financial, but there's a lot of emotional investment that we can do. And I think that if we do that as hospitality leaders, we will have some terrific staff that will definitely take very good care of our customers.
So, Roger, what did you think of what you just heard with the discussions with Frank about, the first two keys? You can't grow as a leader if you don't develop others or overinvest in your people.
Listening to Frank explain that, like, if you really want to grow personally, you got to help others grow, I realized that I have learned more and become better at certain things by helping others do it. And it was sort of an interesting awakening for me.
Well, and I would agree with that in that's exactly what's happened with me as well. Is often you're going to be helping somebody with something that may not be all that common to you, but you're going to walk through the steps on how to, say, solve a problem with somebody. And in doing so, you're going to learn something about, the resolution of that problem as well, as will the other person who you're chatting with. And what they're learning is more than anything, the process, the steps you need to go through, the process you need to go through to work your way through something. And that's something that you can then take on to, a number of different challenges or issues that you might face at your club.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're going to hear more from Frank Benzakour in our next episode of the Engaged Club podcast. Now, if you want we've got something special for you here. If you want access to the full interview. Now, Jim, how long did you talk to Frank for? Like about an hour?
About an hour altogether, yeah.
Yeah, if you want access to that entire interview, send us an email at hello@engagedclub.com. That's hello@engagedclub.com. Send us an email, put Frank in the subject line, and we will send you a link to a page that has the entire interview, the entire hour-long conversation between two club management titans, Frank Benzakour and Jim Hope.
We really hope this episode is a big help to you. And if you know somebody else that can benefit from this episode, please share it and let's grow together.
The archive of this podcast is available at engagedclub.com, where you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Slack space for more discussion. Of course, we always like to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas, and comments by email to hello@engagedclub.com.